Over the past few months, I've seen people talking about Gibiate, and just as always with the things I mostly talk about, it's never been in a positive light. So, today, I'm gonna tell you why this isn't one of the worst animes in existence. Because that title belongs to Shiki, not this. Gibiate is a show with a really strange premise. Two guys from the Edo period get transported to Tokyo in the year 2030, where the world has been ravaged by the Gibiate virus, a disease that turns people into monsters. They find a settlement of people that are working on curing this virus, and decide to help out because it reminds them of the worst parts of their time period. It's one of those series where you can simply look at its synopsis and know that I'm absolutely going to love it just because of how bizarre it is. I believe this is a legitimately good anime. It might not have the best hook to interest you within its first episode, but this show gets better the more you watch it. The first episode didn't have much of a hold on me, but by the time I reached the third one, I was thoroughly invested. I'll admit that the first impressions it gives off might be a little weird, but it's nothing bad. Its visuals aren't the best in the start, but it's a far cry away from anything that people have been saying about it. I've heard others say that this anime becomes more of a train wreck as you watch it, but I experienced the complete opposite of that. This anime started off as slightly better than okay, and it ended up being one of the better animes of 2020. The story of Gibiate is very straightforward. Our characters are on a road trip to a facility that may give them the ability to create a vaccine so they can cure the Gibiate virus. That's a very simplified explanation of it, but it's nothing really groundbreaking. It's very enjoyable for what it is, especially with how well you get to know our cast of characters along the way. Of course, it isn't perfect. The story's quality does dip a bit towards the end, but it's not something that I feel ruins the series. I even felt that how the story ended was perfect for the kind of story that it was trying to tell. Pacing-wise, the show is a little weird, but that's for the better. It has a variable pacing speed, so it's fast or slow when it needs to be. It actually manages to pull this off very well, which I find very commendable, as even the best shows that people praise tend to mess it up somewhere along the way. After fully diving into this anime, you want to know what's really funny? I'm thoroughly convinced that people only think that Gibiate is bad because of how its CGI looks, which makes it even funnier to me because the CGI looks great. If we're to judge this solely based on its looks and technical things, Gibiate is better looking than pretty much every widely disliked anime that has taken its own dish of similar nitpicks. I hate to do this because I actually like this particular series, but take for example Handshakers. By the comparison of a technical standpoint, it was worse in many different ways. Editing was a mess, characters sometimes would disappear off the screen in plain view, and the CGI would even sometimes clash with the 2D world. The only things that redeemed it to be positive for me was that its story and world was intriguing and its characters, minus its protagonist, were enjoyable. Gibiate didn't have a single one of these kinds of technical problems, yet it is seen by the wider community as one of the worst animes. It makes no sense why people think this though, as this anime also has good writing. It even covers any potential holes that the setup causes. The only problem I had with the series' writing was how everyone was so accepting to believe that the main characters are time travelers, but by the end of its first episode, that worry was gone. The writing for the characters does make you wish they were a little better, but they're far from bad. Some of them are likable from the moment you first meet them, while others may take some time to get used to. The cast as a whole is fairly solid, even with some of the lesser explored characters. Gibiate has some competently designed CGI models, but their only problem is that the lighting on them doesn't look the best in some scenes, which is one of the reasons why you see people tossing around that one scene of the Bat Gorilla from episode 1. While that particular bit of CGI doesn't look the best, a majority of the series' scenes look fine. During the first few episodes, they use CGI a lot, but as the series progressed, the monsters ended up being more 2D than CG. It even managed to get this really cool hybrid effect that honestly amazed me with how well it worked. I can understand some people's complaints about how the CGI is used within this anime, however a lot of them are really overblown. I'd understand better if the 3D models stuck out like a sore thumb like some other series that use CGI, but there weren't many instances of that within this anime. For the most part, the models felt genuine for the anime to have. They never once had that horrible effect that worse off series have where you can very clearly tell that they were just floating 3D objects over a 2D plane. The CGI had weight to it, and didn't clip through anything. It didn't even look awkward for being what it was. I thoroughly enjoyed the time I spent watching Gibiate, and I don't regret a single second. I'm glad that I got to experience that anime, and I hope that, by some miracle, people will disregard the overwhelming shit that the series has gotten and give it a chance themselves. If you can't make it past the first episode, I understand, but you're really missing out on a legitimately great anime. Anyways, I'll see you guys under the next pile of trash because, God, the anime community really has a limitless supply of good shows labeled as shit.